Because we asked.
Go time.
Do it.
Sorry, guys.
I will. I
I mean,
got
you can do it. Is everybody ready? All right, so good evening and welcome to this meeting for Tuesday, April 4th. If everybody can please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Grigsby. Here. Mrs. McCarthy.
Here.
Mrs. Saxon.
Here.
Mrs. Tamira.
Here.
Mr. Vaca.
Here. Finalization of the agenda. Is there anything to add or delete?
The agenda is final as presented.
Thank you. Superintendent's report.
Thank you, sir. Just about this time of year, every year, we do an update to the board about open enrollment, where we are, and look for recommendations and moving forward into the next year. So I would ask David to share some of that information with you.
Tuesday.
So Superintendent Casario said this is about the time of year where we start collecting open enrollment applications. And this is one of those areas that I feel like there's a lot of misinformation or confusion about out in the community. So I want to make sure that you've got good information, as we make this recommendation moving ahead. So first question that always gets asked is,
I guess not. All right. Now work. Yeah, there you go.
is about open enrollment in Excel. And as a policy, the district does accept open enrollment applications every year, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we are accepting or that we are acting on them. And the reason for that is districts either accept open enrollment or they close open enrollment as a district versus opening it individually by building. So the district does, and I'll talk about the why on the next slide here. And what the next slide is going to talk about is the reason for that acceptance. And it is because right now we have a number of students who began open enrollment with us at some point in the past. And really the drive and the impetus for a lot of these students was when we opened Ranger High Tech Academy 6 years ago. So when we opened High Tech Academy, we didn't know what our enrollment from within the district was going to look like. So we opened it up at that point in time, and we had a number of students who filled out our classes that first year that they were opening grades 4 through 7. Many of those students are still with us today. If we were to say we're going to close open enrollment, then we would have to take those students who in some cases are seniors with us and tell them, I'm sorry, you've come through the program, but we can't accept you any longer. So the program remains open. And honestly, if we have, while we are challenged for space in most places across the district, there are a small handful of grade levels to where it could potentially make sense if we wanted to do that. The challenge with it is, those students then matriculate into places that don't have space. So when we're accepting these applications, we're very judicious about, who we're accepting based on the space that we have. Next slide. So here are the numbers. And again, this is the information I think we need to have out there. In the district as a whole, we have 40 students who are considered truly open enrolled. So when you think about that across 13 grade levels, you're talking about 3 students per grade level on average. That 40 student works out to 0.84% of our total student body population. So it is a minuscule number when we're talking about this. This is not what's contributing to our space crunch. This is not what's contributing to larger class sizes. This is literally less than 8% of our total student population. 12 of those 40 students reside at Ranger High Tech Academy in grades 2 through 8. 6 students at NRAC, and those are probably a combination of 2 things. Maybe students who started at High Tech Academy, spent a year or 2 there, and then decided to make the shift over. It's also possible some of these numbers are students who are considered court placed. So we may have students that are open enrolled because the court has placed them out of their home district with somebody here, whether it's foster or something else they would show here. And then we've got 22 students at the high school, and there on the right-hand side, I broke down what that looks like. 10 of those students are seniors who will be graduating. Of those 10 seniors, I know that at least 7 of those are Ranger High Tech Academy seniors. We have 4 juniors, 5 sophomores, 3 freshmen, and out of that total of 22 students, 10 of them have some affiliation to Ranger High Tech Academy, whether it's part of that senior group or interspersed amongst those remaining 12 students. So again, Ranger High Tech Academy drives the majority of our open enrollment. So when we look ahead to next school year, next slide, the recommendations that I would have would be the same that we have now, that we keep our policy in place that allows us to make sure that our currently open enrolled students can continue on. It also allows for that opportunity to keep a Ranger high tech at full capacity if we need to. Last couple of years, we haven't had that issue. We've had enough students internally to fill those spots, but who knows what happens down the road for next year. And then the other thing it does is the other suggestion that I would have is what we're doing now, which is to limit the open enrollment to places where the programming and space allows. And realistically, that's not in a lot of places. And I anticipate that I will stand here in front of you next year and do this again. And, you know, the numbers will be less than those 40 that we have now, in large part because we know we're losing 10 seniors and I don't see replacing anywhere near that number, if any at all. So we do have open enrollment, and I think the important message is it's not contributing to our space issues. It's actually providing benefits for us, particularly as we look back historically and allowing us to staff Ranger high tech at full capacity. So I'll be happy to entertain any questions that you might have, but these would be my recommendations for moving into the 23-24 school year.
David, can you explain a little bit about what the financial impact is of open enrolled students?
Absolutely. So I think it's important to know that when a student is open enrolled from another district, funding comes with them. So these are not students that are coming in and not contributing anything to the bottom line. The state, when we went to the formula, kind of looked at the number that we have and continues to fund us, is my understanding, you know, at that level, so long as we stay within so many students of how many we had when we went on the formula. So these students are coming with dollars from their home schools to North Richmond. Anything else? I appreciate your time, and we'll talk about this same time next year.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
That concludes superintendent's report.
All right, so announcements this evening, just so that everybody in the community is aware that early voting began April 3rd, 2023. I believe the deadline for registration has passed, correct?
Yes.
So please take advantage of early voting. Otherwise, we look forward to seeing you in the polls. Hearing of the public, there's nobody in attendance this evening, so we'll move into the consent agenda. Education report, Ms. Tamira.
Thank you. We have a few agreements for your consideration. The first agreement is a renewal with the Educational Service Center of Lorraine County for the 2023-2024 school year. Next, we have the following multi-year agreements. Savaz Learning Company, 9 through 12 ELA text and materials renewal. Vista Decor, world language text and materials renewal. McGraw-Hill Teacher Online Access for 6 through 8 ELA. And Go Guardian Edulastic assessment renewal. This is the first reading for these items. The second reading and consideration for approval will be at our May 18th regular board meeting. This concludes the education report.
Thank you. Okay, so we move into communications report, Mr. Grigsby.
Thank you, Mr. Baca. It is recommended that the Board of Education accept the following gifts with appreciation. A total of $17,358 in grants are being awarded to NRCS staff for the 2022-23 school year from the Endowment Fund Committee, care of the Lorraine County Community Foundation. I can spell them out. General Fund grants of $8,668, Fine Arts grants distributed $4,188, and Shannon Edwards Memorial Fund grants of $4,502. Monetary donation of $68 was donated by North Ridgeville Kiwanis to the North Ridgeville High School Key Club. An Amtrak therapeutic tricycle was donated by the North Ridgeville Kiwanis Club to the North Ridgeville Student Services Department for our students with disabilities. A monetary donation of $2,000 was donated by North Ridgeville VFW to North Ridgeville City Schools to be used for our school lunch balances. A monetary donation of $200 was donated by the Garden Club of North Ridgeville to RHTA for beekeeping. And we thank our community for their tremendous support of our schools and our students.
Thank you. Human Resources Report, Ms. Saxon.
Yes, we have a number of items in the Human Resources Report. 10 continuing contracts, 166 limited contracts, 5 healthcare associate contracts, 52 support staff limited contracts, 1 support staff leave of absence, one support staff resignation. This is the first reading for these items. The second reading and consideration for approval will be at the April 18th regular meeting. This concludes the human resource report.
Thank you, Ms. Saxon.
I have a question about that report. Or we will be seeing more contracts, or is this all of our contracts for?
These are the renewals
Okay,
for our limited contract individuals.
okay, so we will be seeing more.
You would be seeing new staff or replacements once hired.
Thank you.
And administrative,
And
all administrative contracts we generally do in June.
Okay, thank you so much.
The treasurer's report, Mr. Pacini.
Thank you, Mr. Vaca. So I just wanted to touch on the item that we have under the treasurer's report this evening. This is the approval of our typical resolution that we have every year that the board approves the tax rates for the new tax year. And these are the 2023 tax rates that have been approved by the Budget Commission of Lorain County for all the different types of millage that we have in place. Basically stating that, you know, these are the tax rates effective for X amount of dollars it's going to generate based on the full voted millage that we have in place. And one thing I wanted to point out here is that for 2023, North Ridgeville City School District is the second lowest full tax rate in the county compared to all the other school districts within the county. We are the second lowest. So I thought that was interesting. Just wanted to point that out. That before, but that still is consistent with the 2023 tax year. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, financial recommendations, Ms. McCarthy.
Thank you, Mr. Vaca. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor. I move to approve this resolution in one reading.
Second,
Moved by Ms. McCarthy, second by Ms. Saxon. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mrs. Saxon,
yes.
Mr. Grigsby. Yes. Mrs. Tamira,
Yes.
Mr. Vaca.
Yes. Resources report, Ms. Saxon.
Yes, we have a few items to consider under the human resources report. One certified staff appointment, one non-represented support staff leave replacement contract, 4 support staff appointments, 1 unpaid volunteer recognition. I move to approve the human resources items in one reading.
Second,
Moved by Ms. Saxon, second by Ms. Tamira. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Saxon,
Yes.
Mrs. Tamira,
yes.
Mr. Grigsby,
Yes.
Mrs. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. Vaca.
Yes. It is recommended that the Board of Education enter into executive session to discuss the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, compensation of public employees and matters related to negotiations of public employees. There will be no action to follow.
Second,
Ms. Tamira, second by Ms. McCarthy. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Tamira,
Yes.
Mrs. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. Grigsby. Yes. Mrs. Saxon,
yes.
Mr. Vaca.
Yes.
6:14.